Okay, let's talk a little bit about flash. Flash, bane of my existence. Okay, so I know a lot of beginner photographers, they use their flash a lot, especially when they're indoors at night, taking occasional pictures at somewhere where there's just not enough light. I'm here to tell you, you don't want to use your flash. You don't want to use your flash ever. Ever. This camera flash that comes with the camera, it sucks. It always sucks. There's almost no situation in which it's good. And for you to be able to get good shots using that flash, you have to be a super duper expert photographer. I promise you, it's just not going to happen. It's nothing to do with you. That flash is really, really crappy. The way the flash works is basically for the split second that the shutter is open, it shines a little light on your subject so that if it's really dark, it can kind of give an extra jolt of light into the situation so that the shutter sees enough light to be able to, the chip, that is not the shutter, sees enough light to be able to take the shot and close. The problem is that the light that the camera has almost always is very, very harsh light. It doesn't travel very far because the shutter is open for a split second, and light, even though light travels at the speed of light, because the light is so weak, it can only travel this much. So if you're taking a subject, so here's where you are taking the picture, and let's say here's your subject, great, in which case you will get enough flashlight into that subject, but because it's so close and so strong, the light, the subject will probably be either having his eyes closed, his eyes will get red, or he will just look abrasively white, blown out, terrible light. It is not a high quality light, it doesn't travel very far, and it's just not something you want to use. You're rarely ever going to get good pictures with flashing them. Now, if you're in a low light situation, and let's say you have a tripod and everything and all that stuff that we've already talked about, and you still are just kind of screwed because there's just not enough light. There are cases where you can use your your flash. Almost always, if you are finding that you're going to be in that kind of situation almost all the time and you're going to need to take photos, let's say you take weddings indoors or something like that, you probably want to buy what's called an external flash, and I have one, and I will try to post pictures with this. But basically it goes right here on the camera, and it slips in, and it has a little head that turns up and down, so it allows you to bounce the light off the ceiling instead of bouncing the light right onto the subject. It basically bounces onto the ceiling and allows more light to flow into the whole scene. And it also sometimes has something called a diffuser, which is a small little window in front of the light and allows the light to be less harsh when it falls onto your subject. So there are lots of tricks you can use with an external flash. Another perfect example of external flash is that that video that I showed a couple weeks ago about when your subject is too dark because there's something brighter behind him. What you can do then is put a flash right in front of the subject so that the subject is now more lit than the background because there's light coming right onto its face. And that's called flash fill flash, sorry. It allows you to fill the scene with flash, which means now you're basically telling the camera, no, this is the subject, this has more brighter, even though there's a sunset behind him, and that's pretty bright too. It allows both things to be equally bright. That's basically it. So the one takeaway, really the only takeaway from this is that you don't want to use your flash. If you find yourself ready to take flash photos and you really feel like you're going to be in situations where it's worth investing into an external flash, then go ahead and buy one and experiment with the external flash. But really turn your internal flash off and never, ever, ever turn it on. Ever. Ever.